What's going on, guys? So in this video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is going to be some planting or gardening. I think the word is gardening. Some very good friends of ours gave us some plants, and one of them was this. It's been sort of trained to look like a tree. It's a bit overgrown, needs a new pot, and I really wanted a nice bedside lamp for next to the bed, and I figured I could do something with this planty boy here. So what I'm going to do first in the video is I'm going to trim up this plant, prune it a bit, and get rid of some of these extra little straggly bits that I don't want anymore. I like the way it's been trained up with some wire to be a bit of a corkscrew. I've also got a new pot for it because that one's a bit overgrown, as you can probably see, and this one looks a bit nicer, so I'm going to be repotting it as well with some special soil that's like some weird volcanic rock. I don't know, my wife bought the soil for it, and apparently it's better for succulents. Got a lot of succulents now, actually. So yeah, I don't know what I kind of don't know what I want to do with. I want to get rid of all these shoots. Might keep the small ones down the bottom here, but I'll probably get rid of this big one here and that one as well. Maybe get rid of that one. How would that look? Actually, I think that would look pretty good. I think if I just kept it as the corkscrew and just maybe retrained it this way a little bit, should look nice. So, no going back now, I guess. Bye, here goes nothing. These aren't the right tools for this, but probably keep that. It'll probably grow back into a new plant. I'll have to come back later. Neaten up, these snips are all stuffed. So this is the rough shape of it. Alrighty, now onto the elementron. This is the bit most people are probably interested in. The plan is to use some of these enameled wire, whatever they're called, little lights. Sometimes these are in series, so they're easy to drive. These ones were originally ran off a 2 AA batteries in series, so it's like 3 volts, which is the normal forward voltage of these little warm white LEDs. I chose warm white just because it looks nicer, especially with the contrast of the green of the plant. So these are the LEDs. They're just surface mount. They are all in just parallel, so the whole thing needs to run on around about 3 volts. And what I was thinking was, rather than just have an on and off switch, it's a bit lame, I actually have one of these PCBs floating around. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to leave the little pizzas on there, I'm going to pull them off. But this was the only small set of warm white LEDs that I had. Back to the cool bit that I think is cool. I have this leftover little touch module here. It's for driving LED strips, and you just touch it and it changes the lights. The only issue was this is meant to drive 12 volt LEDs, and these are obviously 3. And what I did was I just connected it up to the little bench power supply I have, and the lowest voltage this will sort of run on is about 4 volts. It runs fine on 5 as well, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this USB powered, and the LEDs themselves, I found I was going to use a 3.3 volt linear regulator. I didn't think a switching regulator would work with this being like a PWM output sort of a deal, and it was getting too hot with the voltage regulator. But I have a bunch of resistors, and I ended up choosing a 1/2 watt 100 ohm resistor, and it seems to work fine. It doesn't get hot or anything at all. The brightness of these isn't 100%. It can't go to full brightness of what it would run on if you were just running it on straight 3 volt, but it doesn't need to be that bright. It's actually a bit too bright when it's that high. I could have knocked this down to either a 90 or 80 ohm resistor and it would have been fine. What I've done here is I've got one of these little touch modules I got on eBay or AliExpress or something. It's just a capacitive touch button, and originally it had just a little pad here to touch, so you'd put that, I don't know, on a piece of metal or something and you could touch it. And what I did, there was a little via there, or via, however you pronounce it, that connects to this touch panel here, and all I did was scratch it back and install a piece of 30 gauge wire. It's just wrapping wire. I stripped it back, and thankfully it works just by touching anywhere on the wire. Okay, so I currently have the output of the power supply set to 5.4 volt. As I said before, this will run down to about 4, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit of sag or anything like that from the USB port. Currently drawing 0.01 watts, which is 0.3 milliamps basically. And the way this module works, I've got the piece of wire just here near my hand, and you just tap it, touch it once, it'll turn on. The way it works is the longer you hold it, the brighter it gets. If you tap it once, it turns off. If you tap and hold it, it'll get brighter, full brightness just there. And if you tap it off, it slowly dims out. Tap it just quickly on, it'll go back to the same brightness you had set before. And to turn it down, just hold it and let go. So the idea here is to make the wire the same length as this along the edge of this wire here, which is enameled. And then the idea is basically touch anywhere on the plant should turn on. Alrighty, so what I ended up having to do was make the touch wire a lot shorter. It appears, from what I can understand, is when it's wrapped around tightly around the plant, or not even tightly, just loosely wrapped around it, I think it's acting kind of like an antenna, and it's picking up something and it's making the touch controller just basically crash. It'll work for a bit and then stop, or it just won't work at all. So what I ended up doing, which is a bit of a shame, but it actually kind of works out okay in the end, is I just shortened the wire a fair bit. Only really comes up to about here. Obviously it works still. I can tap to turn it off. I figured if you're lying in bed or whatever, the easiest point to even touch to turn it on, which you'd probably be doing most of the time as well to avoid hurting the leaves, would be sort of just on the trunk here anyway. So it's a bit of a bummer that I couldn't wrap the entire tree and make any point of it work, but this seems to work good enough. And honestly, I think it's easy. It's still kind of cool the way it works. Kind of like you've got Kung Fu powers or something. Tai Chi, origami, something. really liked how the plants turned out. It's a nice little lamp for next to the bed. And yeah, if you want to see more stuff like this, just leave a comment down below as always. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and like and share and all that stuff.